Okay. This is episode 5 of the Gift of Gabs. I have 3 high elite athletes here with me. Uh, on the left of the screen is Alexis. Mileena is in the middle, and Aubrie is on the right. Is that correct? I think
Yep.
the name's right. I'm messing with twins here. So all I want to do is just kind of go through and ask you a few questions. I sent you some of them ahead of time, so maybe you have. I did throw in one more that just talking about goals, but tell me, you guys can just take turns. I'm assuming maybe Aubrie and Alexis were at the same time, but how old were you when you started wrestling?
I was 7 years old.
I started later, so I was probably 10 or 11.
I was 9 years old.
So we all started at different ages.
Okay, I didn't know you were 10. I thought you started younger than that.
No,
You were
well,
just
we looked it
little.
up. It felt like longer, but we looked it up, and apparently I started around 2018. So
So, yeah, you were just small when you started.
yeah.
Yeah. So, why wrestling? What made you pick wrestling?
I picked wrestling just because I don't know. Well, why I started is because my brother was wrestling and I saw him wrestle, and this was when I was younger, like maybe 4 or 5, and it kind of interested me. But my dad at the time saw that there was like no girls wrestling, like he didn't even know it existed. So he's like, no, like that's not like a girls' sport. But once we moved to Wahoo and there was a girl that wrestled, then he was like, oh, okay, you can try it, and that's why I like tried it.
So, your dad wasn't a wrestler.
He was. Yeah, he
He
was.
was.
In
Okay.
high school.
Okay. Because usually when I go to wrestling meets, the dads are the crazy ones. Like
Yeah.
in the
And
screen,
then, oh, sorry. I tried other sports and I was just horrible at everything. I tried instruments too, and wrestling is just something that it was very comfortable, I want to say, just around the. So I started, and there was a girls' practice I started at. So like I was just around other girls who wanted to wrestle, and it's just something that interests me more than any other thing did.
Okay.
So Alexa started wrestling like before me a few years, and at first I was like really hesitant. I'm like, oh, like this seems like too like rough for me because like I was more of a really like girly girl. Like I like dance and cheerleading. So then a few years later, the club, like the youth club we were on, had a bunch of other girls that ended up joining. So I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. Like other girls are doing it, so maybe I can try it. So I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I was surprised. Well, I'm old, so when I was younger, there weren't any girls wrestling, and there wasn't girls UFC or anything like that. So if there was a girl fight, it was just a fight. So we didn't have any of that around. So what makes it different than other sports? Because I mean, you said you tried other sports and you were good at those, but you kind of picked this up because you picked it up pretty fast.
Yeah, so I think a big difference is, unlike a lot of sports, that it's more of an individual thing. Like obviously, like volleyball or like basketball, you have a team, and it's not just you versus someone else. Like, and
Yeah.
wrestling is very individual. And I think, well, I might be biased, but I think wrestling is a lot more mentally and physically demanding than other sports.
Yeah, and like with other sports, if your team loses, you can always place the blame on someone like, oh, this person on my team, messed up. It's not my fault. Like I'm the best one on the team.
Yeah.
But wrestling, it's all up to you. Like you put yourself on the line. If you lose or win, it's your fault. You can only really blame yourself.
Right.
So
And another way it's different is obviously like the weight cut is a big part of it. And there's a few other sports like, like
boxing and other
Powerlifting and whatnot.
powerlifting that you have to weigh in for, but that also makes it different than other sports.
Yeah, I had a couple of students at Concordia that were power lifters.
Hmm.
I remember them talking about making weight. The making weight part was the thing that made me not want to be a wrestler in high school.
Right.
So, and I was a tennis player, so I kind of relate to it being individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a college team, but even when I was on the team, and it was fun because we were close, but even when I was on the team, it still felt individual.
Right. So like when we do duels, which is basically a whole like lineup of every weight versus another team and all their weights, it's obviously more of a team aspect because you get points for your team, but at the same time it's only you versus that other person
Yeah.
at the same weight.
I just remember the only time I ever wrestled was in PE class. And the guy, he made us do it because the gym teacher was the wrestling coach. And
Yeah,
so
they've
we
stopped
all,
doing that.
and he was always on me about wanting me to wrestle because I was like 145 pounds or something like
Right.
that in high school. And I don't think they would have wanted me to wrestle at 145. They probably dropped me down. So do you guys wrestle a lot lighter than you would have as your normal weight? Or
I mean, I guess it's hard to say because if I hadn't wrestled, I probably wouldn't like weigh myself, and I probably wouldn't like I don't know, I probably wouldn't have as much muscle tone, and like when you're stronger, obviously puts more weight on you.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess it just depends for the tournament. Like at more competitive tournaments like Fargo, like usually you want to cut a little more weight because like it's more competitive and you don't want to be undersized. But probably for high school, it's not as a big of a thing to cut so much weight.
So it doesn't make you weaker when you drop weight?
It depends on how you do
It
it.
depends
depends
if you
how
do it
much you
right.
cut.
And it depends because if weigh-ins are the night before, then you'll have the whole like night to like refuel and rehydrate. Whereas if the weigh-ins are only like an hour before you actually wrestle, then you're probably gonna be pretty weak. So
So is most of it water? When
yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
most of it is water.
Okay. So how much do you vary? Like right now, you haven't had meets for a while, right?
we just got our last one we all competed at was Deep South Duels, and
It
that
was about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So do you go up a little when you're not wrestling, or do you
so
try to?
like off season, for example, usually in season I wrestle 105, and then for these during the summer I wrestle 110 because during season you're practicing basically 6 times a week. You're closer to
Your metabolism.
yeah, your weight is lower, you're eating probably healthier during the season versus off season or summer when you don't
You
I
just
don't
want
wanna
to
say-
enjoy
yeah.
your summer. You don't want to be cutting all the time.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what weights do the three of you wrestle at during the high school season?
So during high school, I'm planning on doing either 120 or 125, but during the off season, I have been wrestling like 125.
Okay.
Are we just gonna say what we wrestled last year? Let's just say
Or
that.
what you're planning on.
Yeah, so
Or what I'm planning on.
So last year I wrestled 105 and I'm still planning on going 105.
Okay.
Last year I wrestled 135, but I'm planning on doing like 130 or 135.
So is it every 5 pounds that there's?
So for girls
to
and
a
boys weights are different. So like girls for at least high school is different than off season. Like off season tournaments can basically choose what weights they want for most of them. But high school in Nebraska is 100, 105, 110, 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, 140, 45, 155, and then 170, 190, and then what is it?
heavyweight,
Heavyweight.
235.
Yeah.
So anything above 190 is heavyweight?
Yeah.
So it could be like 195 or 295?
Well, they have to
Be 235
or
under.
less. Yeah.
35? Okay. Yeah, that seems, so I don't know how big, I know there's gonna be some changes in how they do girls wrestling this year, right? They're
Yeah.
not doing it with the boys this
Yeah.
time?
So for example, state in the past has been boys and girls going at the same time, but this year they're splitting it into it's gonna be during the same week, but girls is Tuesday, Wednesday, and then boys is Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So basically like two separate tournaments, but using the same facility,
Okay.
just like different days.
And
So-
recently they've also added they're splitting classes to like most sports do class A, class B, class C, class D for Nebraska at least. But and with girls wrestling being so new, all of the schools were just one class. So girls wrestling was not split into any classes. You could wrestle anyone from any school. But now they've split it in half. So class A, there's a class A and class B.
So will you all be class A or no?
No, so like the class A and B schools, like for other sports, they're all gonna be grouped into class A for girls, and then the
Oh,
smaller
okay.
schools like class C and D will be class B. So me and Alexis go to UTN, which is like a class C2 school, so we'll be in class B. And then obviously.
Yeah, Lincoln East is a bigger school, so I'll be in class A.
Because I know when I was in Shadron, I taught at the college, but the high school in Shadron, some years was C and some years was B, depending on how
Yeah.
many students they had, it changed.
And
But-
also for different sports, it can change too, which is weird, but
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah.
Okay, so I have a question that I don't know anything about. You guys wrestle freestyle? Is that right?
So during high school season, we'll wrestle what's called folk style, and then off season or summertime, you focus more on freestyle.
Okay. And Olympic is Greco?
Olympics for girls is freestyle,
But
Oh,
for
it
men,
is.
it's
Okay.
and
freestyle
also
Greco.
for college for girls, it's freestyle.
So it's weird. In high school, we wrestle folk style, but in college, we wrestle freestyle. But boys, on the other hand, do folk style, and then in college, folk style, unless they go to the Olympic level, then it's freestyle and Greco.
What's the difference between freestyle and folk style?
So folk style is just like it's basically just in America. It's this type of wrestling style where there's what really like points it apart is like referee's position where there's someone on all fours on the bottom and then someone starts on top of them and that's like referee's position. And then there's neutral where both people are standing up in a stance. And those are the two positions in folk style, and that's really what differentiates it. Also, the points is different too.
They've recently added for high school level 3-point takedowns. In the past, it's been 2-point takedowns for folk style. So now, and then in freestyle, it's still 2 points for a takedown.
So is freestyle, are you always both standing?
Yeah. So there's also 3 periods. This is kind of confusing. There's 3 periods in folk style. 3, what is it, 2-minute periods?
3 2-minute periods.
But in freestyle, it switches to 2 3-minute periods.
Oh, okay.
and for
Well,
free,
Yeah, that was confused about that because I might be wrong, but when I was in high school, I thought they were 3-minute rounds, but they might not have been. I'm not sure because it was folk style. I mean, they had somebody was down on all.
So I guess in freestyle, someone also is down, but it's different. You're just kind of laying on the mat in an X shape and trying to defend a turn.
From being turned.
Yeah.
What do you like better? Would you rather be on top or on all fours?
And freestyle or folk style?
Folk.
I'd rather be on top. Well, okay, most people choose. I'd rather be on bottom to like start, but like I like being able to turn people. So
I'm the same. Like if I had a choice, I would choose bottom, but then I do like being on top, turning, and hitting
Same.
different moves.
Could you get a point for an escape if you're on
Yeah.
And 2 points for a reversal.
and the reversal is you getting on top?
Yeah.
You going back on top. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get confused. I went to a few meets of Mileena's and I get
Right.
confused when they're throwing points up there because I'm not sure what's happening.
Freestyle is more supposed to be fast paced and more. That's why they bring you back up to your feet a lot because you'll be like, I guess, top and bottom where one person's flat, the other person's on top trying to turn you. And in a matter of like 15 to 30 seconds, they'll bring you up back to your feet trying to have it more fast paced.
So there's definitely more. It's definitely like more scoring, more like loose. Where like folk style is definitely more of a like grind and like closer matches. But freestyle, it's more like if you let's say if you get like a throw or something, it can like switch a whole match. Like
Okay.
who's leading the match.
You said they're changing the scoring this year?
For folk style in high school, they're changing it to call like how the college level
Adapted
does
to
it.
college
Okay.
wrestling for guys.
So who's been coaching you? I mean, just the high school coach, or do you have other coaches besides your high school coach?
okay, so for a high school coach, obviously we each have our own coaches that coach for our school team, but during like club season, like off season, we all get coached by Gage Anderson.
He is a former wrestler from UNL.
Yeah, I didn't know all 3 of you were working.
Yeah, so usually weekly we go to him and do a private lesson
And he's been coaching us since like 2018.
since basically the beginning of when I started in.
Okay. So do you guys follow college wrestling? Like, do you follow Nebraska's wrestling team?
Sort of more of Nebraska. We kind of follow them. Like we go to a lot of their duels.
We'll go
um,
together.
preseason.
For Nebraska, there's no girls like Nebraska, at least UNL, there's no women's wrestling at the college level
Right.
yet. But there's smaller schools that have it, but we like to go to the men's
Yeah,
UNL duels.
I know Concordia is starting. I don't know if they did it last year, but this year they're going to.
Right.
And Shadron State, I think, is starting one.
Yeah, they have a girls team. There's a lot of smaller schools that are getting women's wrestling team versus bigger schools.
Yeah.
Do you want to wrestle in college?
Yeah.
Most likely.
I think
yeah.
we all
We all plan
yeah.
to.
Yeah. So have schools already started contacting you?
Yeah, and it's also different because I know I was talking to my mom about it. A lot of schools would like send you letters or like maybe talk to you in person, but now from I would say for all of us, they either reach out through social media or through your phone number,
Yeah.
which is
Oh, okay,
different.
okay. So do you guys use huddle like all the other sports? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for high school season, a lot of schools use like Huddle to like film their matches, like most schools.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah, so we just use Huddle to like film our whole matches. Our managers do it, and then so we can go back and watch it. I don't know if college
Right.
coaches
Yeah.
look
I
at
think, yeah, I
Um,
think if colleges subscribe to it, I think they can look at that stuff too. But and that makes it a lot better. When I was 25 years ago, I would coach the women's golf team at Shadron, and girls, we didn't have huddle, so girls would send me VHS tapes of them hitting balls on the range and stuff. So it was a lot harder to, unless I went to visit or, went to one of their tournaments or something like that. Um, so tell me what's your summer been like? How many tournaments and where and how did that go?
We've gone to quite a few tournaments. Basically, the summer's mostly like the focus is Fargo, like that's kind of like
What's your
what you're
Preparing for,
looking
yeah.
to. But all the other tournaments up till there are kind of just like building blocks.
Do you want to explain what Fargo is?
Yeah, Fargo is basically this huge national competition where it's like nationwide, like all these states go to it.
It's freestyle.
And it's freestyle, it's like best of the best, and that's where a lot of colleges are recruiting and everything like that. So it's definitely like if you're looking to wrestle in college, that's definitely a tournament to go to.
So do you have to qualify that or be invited to that or?
Yeah, you have to wrestle at like what's called regionals, and you have to place in the top 6, or you can wrestle at your state's like freestyle state tournament, and you have to place in the top 4.
So when you get to Fargo, there might be 20 or 30 people in your weight class?
Actually,
Even
there's a
more.
lot more.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
There's like
really?
this year I had a 128 girl bracket,
Wow.
and it has like a few buys because if you have any more than 64 girls, it automatically bumps up to 128.
Yeah, that's the same as tennis tournaments were like that too.
Right.
Most of the tennis tournaments I played though were 64. Oh,
This is definitely one of the biggest tournaments.
yeah. So you guys, you went to Europe, didn't you, this spring, May?
We all went to Estonia. Was it March? Yeah, we all went to Estonia in March together for 2 weeks and wrestled at a tournament called the Talent Open.
So what was that like? Was that freestyle?
So yeah, it was freestyle. I actually couldn't wrestle because I sprained my ankle at high school state, so I just went along for the ride and I like watched them compete. So I unfortunately didn't get to, but yeah, it was freestyle.
So in America is only folk style. So when we go to, if you were to go to a different country, then it turns into everything is freestyle and Greco for guys, but just freestyle for women.
So how hard is it to adjust going back and forth?
You
I
definitely
mean-
have to think because there are things that are different. Like for instance, freestyle you can lock hands, folk style you can't, or else it's like a penalty. And of course, we already talked about like referee's position and parterre position.
Right.
But yeah.
There's always 2 referees.
Well, I think for freestyle, when it gets to like bigger matches, there's
Yeah.
there's 2 referees, but like
It just depends on the level. If it's just
Yeah.
some like small tournament that's not as big, it'll just be one ref. But if it's like a really big
Okay.
tournament, that's more.
So high school, do you have just one?
So again, for like the smaller tournaments or like not finals matches, I guess you would have one ref.
But at state,
At state, they definitely have 2 refs, or like some finals matches at tournaments will have 2 refs.
So would you go back to Estonia if you could go again?
I think we would definitely go to a different country. I don't know if we'd go to Estonia again.
yeah.
It was really fun though. It's definitely different. You get to see all people from different countries and just how I guess they interact or how they
culture.
practice and their culture. And we also got to trade some of our singlets.
Oh,
We all traded some of our like a singlet, some shirts and stuff from different countries.
oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, I used to take students to London every spring and just.
Aubrey will be right back.
just traveling over there was really good experience for
Yeah,
me.
it was really fun. The flights were not so fun because they were so long, but it was still definitely fun. We took, how many people went? I would say maybe 20,
20
something.
I don't know.
We had 4 girls, so us 3, and then one other girl, and then I would say a handful of boys, maybe 15 or so.
So is that affiliated with the high schools or is it?
It's actually with our club, NWTC, who we wrestle with through the summer.
Okay, okay. So, when you wrestle those people from different countries, is there any like language problems? Like, can you?
This is funny. So when we went there, we were expecting to like kind of struggle, but most people speak English, like almost everyone. We were talking to some girls who actually live in Estonia and they start learning English, I think, from 3rd grade.
Yeah, and
So-
like all throughout.
Yeah, so they
Like-
learn it every year and they're very like, it's very easy to talk to them. They understand what you're saying, you understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
Even like the refs, like everyone spoke English, and it was funny. I had a conversation with a girl, I can't remember where she was from, but she was like, "What's your guys' second language?" But it's like for us, we don't really have a second
Yeah,
language,
that's
but
how-
everyone learns English.
So you guys in high school, you don't have to take a second language?
You
We didn't
Well-
when I was in school.
Some schools I know it's required to have so many years. If you're planning on going to like a 4-year college, they usually expect like 2 years of it
Yeah.
of a language.
so I took 2
Yeah.
years of Spanish, but I could not tell you a single.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
A lot more schools, a lot more colleges are starting to require it because I haven't been all over Europe. I've been to England, Scotland, France.
Wow.
And almost everybody I met in France spoke like 3 or 4 languages. And so they could talk to everybody. I always, and I'm sitting here and I don't speak another language. I'm trying to learn Portuguese on my phone.
Oh wow.
But it seems dumb that we're like we just expect everybody to speak English and
No, because I think some places we would almost not get irritated, but be like, "Oh, why can't they understand this?" But at the end of the day, we're in a different country.
Yeah.
yeah.
Where they shouldn't, I guess, have to learn English. We should also be able to.
Well, and you have like Google Translator and stuff like that now.
We definitely used some of that when we were there.
Yeah.
And what I found, I mean, England and Scotland, they obviously speak English, but when I go to France, if you just tried to speak a little French, they would help you. You know,
Yeah.
and they would ask you if you spoke English or something. But if you didn't try, then they would just be rude. I mean, well, I guess it's being rude to them too if we didn't try.
Right.
But that was, I think that's a good experience for people. So does it make you want to learn a different language?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be cool because a lot of them, like you said, like knew 3 languages or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's just like it just made you kind of feel left out because you're like, oh, I really want to like interact with these people, but I don't know their language.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I met 2 people in Paris one time and they both spoke 6.
oh my gosh.
And
Yeah,
they-
it's
they've
kind of
been there
crazy.
their whole life. So
We
But
only grew up learning English, but everyone else in different countries learned 2 or 3 languages just in school.
yeah, and it's easier if you start like 2nd or 3rd grade. And I took Spanish in the 5th grade, so I was starting to learn it, and then we moved, and the new school didn't have it, so I can like count to 10, and that's about all
Yeah.
I do. So tell me what are your goals this year for is high school season? You're kind of in your off season right now, right?
Yeah, so our high school season starts
November.
In the middle of
That's what I
November.
thought.
So are you allowed to have practices between now and November? with
So
the-
we can do our like off season or club, we can practice with them. And we also have, at least at my school, we do open mats, but our coaches aren't allowed to coach the open mats unless there's 4 or less kids. So we can run it kind of on our own, or like kids who are like seniors or like know a lot more than other kids help out, or we just kind of go there and get like roll around and
Yeah, but once high school season starts, you're not allowed to like practice with like
Your
kids
club.
from other schools.
Oh, really?
So, because it like could be seen as like cheating or something if you like practice with another like
Yeah.
elite wrestler or something.
So do you guys, I'm assuming you kind of know all the other good wrestlers in the state.
yeah.
So does that have any effect on Like I want to wrestle in this weight class versus another weight class? Because you want
I
to wrestle somebody or you want to not wrestle somebody?
I definitely do see that in Nebraska where there's probably, I would say, 2 to 3 really good girls at each weight. And some girls will go certain weights to try to win the state title or try to beat someone, and other girls will not go that weight to avoid that or have a higher chance.
Um,
But as the sport gets better and more competitive, then you see less of that because eventually all the weights are
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
You can't run away from anybody.
It's
Yeah,
definitely still
yeah.
really new in Nebraska, so it's not.
I might be wrong about this, but wasn't there a girl at Southwest or something that went to a different weight class, Mileena? Because she didn't want to wrestle you?
Yeah, so there'll be girls that'll like if you have. I'll try to explain it. So we had districts coming up, and you kind of want to be seated in districts. So we were going to go to the same districts, and so she didn't want to wrestle me or her coach didn't want to ruin how it could go. Even though I don't know, it's just a whole.
Because based on how you place at districts affects your seating at state, and you want like good seating at state, so that way you have more likely like a chance to medal or place high.
So you'll see girls right before districts drop a weight or go up a weight because they think they have a better chance at placing or making it to state or whatever their goal is.
All right. So how did you three do last year?
So last year I got third place at state, and I'd say for my senior season, my goal is to definitely win a state title.
Okay.
I think all of us can relate to that. I think I'm sure everyone can. They all want to win a state title, but I think we all really, that's our goal. Last year I got second at state at 105, but I definitely want to win that state title next year.
And I got second as well, but yeah, I definitely want to win another state title, and also win a title with my team since we have a chance since we're
So
classmates now.
you have won one before?
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Alexis both won our freshman and sophomore year, and then
So are the girls that you lost to last year, are they back? Are they graduated?
the girl that beat me at state this year was a senior.
The girls that we lost to are both graduated.
The girl that I had lost to in the state finals isn't graduated, but at the same time, you don't know if you're going to wrestle them again based on what weight they go or what weight you
Yeah.
go.
Did you wrestle the same girl the last 2 years?
No, so I wrestled 2 different girls because my sophomore year I went 100, and then my junior year I went 105.
Okay. So yeah, because I would think the weights could change quite a bit. People going up a class or down a class.
Yeah.
So your goal then is to win state.
Yeah.
Does winning state make a difference for scholarships, college
I mean, I think if colleges look and see that you've won state, like
It definitely stands
it
out.
definitely stands out compared to other people who like just place. Like obviously they'll still reach. A lot of colleges will reach out to girls that place at state, but if they see like state title, like I
Yeah.
think it makes you stand out.
Yeah, I know when I was coaching the golf team, I had a girl one time say, I can't believe that I'm like number 5 on the team, because in golf you play 5 players. And she said I was the number 1 girl on my team in high school. And I said, everybody here was the number 1 girl on their team. And
Yeah.
so that's the big adjustment, I think, is you know, in high school you might have some really good competition, and then you might have a few meets where it's not as competitive. And in college, it seems like it's always competitive. I mean,
I think we've all kind of talked about that at when we do go to college or whatever college we want to go to. We don't want to be the best on our team because that means that we don't have a lot of room to improve or
yeah.
good practice partners.
Yeah, I would think wrestling, especially golf, it doesn't matter because you're hitting by yourself. But wrestling and tennis, it does help if you have somebody that is at least at the same level, if not a little better.
Right, to push you and to help you get better then.
So how much of it you said it was a lot of it is mental. Here's the part that confuses me. And I think it probably works the same way as tennis, but when somebody has you in a hold, are you automatically thinking like, this is what I need to do to get out of it? Or do you have like that's already rehearsed in your head, or is it all improvised?
It's kind of like muscle memory, like you practice and your practices like how to get out of this situation and like what you do if someone does this move on you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely what practice is for, like reps, and that's why we do a lot of live or like sparring is to get into those situations and learn what to do, and then eventually the more reps you do of that, it becomes muscle memory, so it's just automatic.
Because I
Um,
haven't,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead. I haven't been to a lot of these, but the parents and coaches, I hear them yelling like what they want you to do all the time when you're in a certain position or something.
So
Do you guys
honestly, for
even hear
me,
that?
I think just having a coach I trust in my corner just makes me more comfortable and more, I guess, I don't know, just I feel like it helps me perform better, even though I don't necessarily listen to every single thing they say. I mean, I do pick up on some things, like because it's hard to wrestle and hear because sometimes you're wearing headgear or whatnot.
Yeah.
But there is definitely some times where I'm listening to what they say and try it.
Well, that's what I was wondering because you hear all these people yelling, and I didn't know if you even hear that when you're out there on the floor or on the mat. Oh, because
At the front door.
I mean, I wouldn't. Tennis was different in college because it was usually quieter, but I,
Wrestling's definitely super like noisy, loud. There's a lot of
And
matches,
energetic.
whistles, your
Yeah.
team cheering for your coaches, their teammates are cheering for them.
well, yeah, because those mats aren't that far apart, and you could probably hear the person yelling at the one next to you,
Yeah,
and yours, and the one on the other side, and so
exactly. And parents
Oh.
from the stands and
how hard is it to have like some of those bigger meets? I'm assuming you're wrestling like 2 or 3, 4 times a day.
probably even more than that. So in high school, what did they change it to? How many matches?
Like you're allowed to have
5
6 matches a day.
or 6.
Six.
6, really?
In high school and then off season, I don't think
There's not a
yeah.
limit.
There's no.
Yeah. 6 is a lot. I barely got through the 3 minutes in gym class.
Yeah, it's definitely very physically demanding and
I think the most I ever had in a tennis tournament is I did have a tennis tournament that I played in Dallas one time, and it was 104, and I played 8.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, no.
And I went home and my whole body cramped up, and I had to go back the next day because I was sweating. So
Thankfully we don't wrestle for 8.5 hours.
yeah, no. So if you wrestled 6 matches, though, you could theoretically you could be wrestling for 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Honestly, during the match, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's that long, but it definitely adds up.
So what's harder? Is it harder like when you get somebody down on the ground and you're trying to hold them down? Is it harder to hold them down, or is it harder to get up when somebody has you down?
I think it just depends.
Yeah.
It honestly just depends on
It depends
where
on
the
the
pressure
person.
is, where if you're better at bottom, if you're better at top,
Yeah.
what they're trying to do.
Bottom is definitely pretty, like a lot of people really struggle with like getting off bottom. So
Yeah. So you said 3 2-minute rounds? That's what you do now?
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're in the middle of a round, is there any time where you're kind of resting, or is it all just like
Sorta.
2 minutes of intense?
I mean, not really. You kind of, if you are wrestling someone really good, you don't want to like really take a break to relax because then if you do that, they're gonna take advantage of that. And
Well, there's like sort of rest periods when a period is over and they flip a coin to decide.
but it's really only like 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're
Okay.
trying to think of what you're gonna do. You're not really focused on, oh, I'm taking a break right
Yeah.
now. Like you're just focused on what you're gonna do.
It's not
to
really
win.
a break.
Because 1 to 2 seconds of breaking position can open it up for your opponent. And if
Yeah.
they're going intense and if they're not breaking, then it just
Yeah, I think I'll stick with golf. I want to do that. If I need help, I'll just let you guys be my bodyguards. Oh,
it's definitely very intense.
yeah. So college, have you gone on any visits?
Yes.
Yeah, we've all gone on visits. We actually went on a visit not that long ago together to Hastings College in
Which
Nebraska.
is in Nebraska. Yep.
Yeah. How was that?
It was good.
It was fun. I think we all know we don't want to go to college in Nebraska, but we still like taking those visits and seeing what different colleges are like, just kind of understanding what we want in a college, what we don't want, and just,
So do you want Hastings is NAIA, I think.
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you want to do NAIA or D2 or D1, or have you thought about that at all?
I mean, for women's wrestling right now, all the divisions are like basically similar in like level. I would say like in talent, the girls just because like well right now it's mostly smaller schools having adding women's wrestling. There's not a lot of Division I programs
I think
yet.
there's 4 right now that has
Yeah.
women wrestling.
That's
And
all.
also, D1, D2, and D3 all wrestle together in the national championship because for guys, D1 is separate from D2.
Yeah,
For girls, it's small enough that they put all the NCAA together.
And then NAI has their own championship as well.
right. So Nebraska and Iowa have been like big with boys wrestling forever.
Yeah.
Or is it the same with, is Nebraska and Iowa like the 2 biggest for girls?
I would say definitely Iowa is. There's states like Pennsylvania who their girls wrestling in California is super big.
Texas.
Same with boys too.
Okay.
But Nebraska is now just starting because we only sanctioned girls wrestling 3 years ago as a state. So it's just now becoming bigger. I mean, there's always been girls wrestling since we started, at least, that there's been like girls here and there, but it's definitely starting to get bigger, more
Well, I
recognized
guess-
in Nebraska.
Did Penn State win the guys wrestling last year?
Yeah, they won as a team the national championship.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay, so I have some questions that I didn't send you guys that I wanted to ask you real quick, and I just want you to tell me off the top of your head. So
Okay.
that you don't have to think about these a whole lot, and if you can't think of an answer, that's okay. First one, and you guys can just answer these individually. If you could spend a day with anybody, living or dead, who would you pick?
You go first.
Someone else go then.
I don't know.
Let's see. If I could spin a days. I don't know.
I'll
I'm not
give,
very good at these questions.
I'll give you some examples. I've had,
Okay.
I had one person said Steve Jobs. I think that was the person that did my website, so that made sense. I had one person say Nadia Comaneci. Do you know who that is?
No.
Nadia Comaneci. Nadia Comaneci was the first women's gymnast to score a
Huh.
perfect 10 in the Olympics.
Wow.
76. And actually she married a American gymnast from Oklahoma, I think. But yeah, she said she would like to talk to her about that. One person said, I think one person said Albert Einstein or something, something like that. So, but we can come back to that if you want to think about it a little bit.
Well,
This-
I'd say,
Go ahead.
kind of have an idea, like maybe like Simone Biles, just to see like
Yeah,
her journey, like hear how she got to the top and like how she handles pressure, because obviously
Yeah.
being the best.
yeah.
probably-
Did you see the documentary on her?
Yeah,
I haven't
I
seen it
watched
yet.
it.
Yeah, it was good. I think wrestling and gymnastics to me, and I was just a tennis player, but wrestling and gymnastics to me seem like the 2 toughest sports.
Yeah,
I
And
totally
you have to be
agree.
in the best shape to do. And I don't know how gymnasts do that without killing themselves trying to figure out how to do it.
I
Um,
definitely hear a lot of people doing gymnastics or wrestling just to stay in shape or help with their body control or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you hear about it more with gymnastics, but there's kids who like wrestle during high school season, at least at my school, that do it just to stay in shape for maybe football or whatever else they're doing.
Right.
And also, a lot of good wrestlers you see nowadays started off with gymnastics just because it's good when you're younger to like, I don't know, for your athleticism, balance,
like body awareness.
body
Yeah, it
awareness.
seems like
and it
that
really
would help.
translates to wrestling.
Seems like that would really help.
I think gymnastics will help with anything really.
yeah.
Because I know Simone Biles in the Olympics was in Japan, and that she dropped out because she got where she was
Mental,
losing
yeah.
track of where she was in the air and stuff. And people were giving her a hard time on social media, and I thought, shut up. dude."
Like they're
Yeah.
not even, they're just
Yeah.
sitting on their couch eating chips.
I know. Well, and it's different. I mean, if I'm playing tennis, I can sprain my ankle or blow my knee out, but if you're a gymnast, you could get killed doing that.
Right.
You know, if you're laying wrong or something like that.
You'd like paralyze yourself.
So people just need to leave them alone. And I was glad she came back and won this year. So
Yeah.
I don't know if she'll do anymore. Next one should be a little easier.
Okay.
If you could be any animal, what animal would you pick?
Probably a cat, because well, okay, my favorite animals are cats. Like I prefer them over dogs, and they just, I don't know, it just seems fun to be a cat. They just like walk around and climb everywhere.
I would personally want to be a dog. I just think that's, I don't know. I've always just, like, we would get asked those kind of questions in school, and I've always picked a dog. I just think it's interesting.
Any certain kind of dog?
Maybe a Yorkie?
A Yorkie. I thought maybe you'd pick like a pit bull or something like a wrestler would pick. With
My little tiny Yorkie is what I would.
do you have a favorite cat?
Well, I have like three cats. One of them is an orange tabby. The other one's like a part Siamese or
Yeah.
a long-haired. I don't know what it's called.
What's it
I
called?
have a Siamese and a calico. So,
Then we have we have a cat that's black that's like part Siamese, a cat that's orange, it's an orange tabby, and then a gray cat that's like a long-haired something.
so are you cat and dog or no?
They have two dogs.
We have dogs too, but I
Two
definitely
dogs.
prefer my cats because my dogs like I don't like when dogs slobber on me and they're all over me and they just like I don't know.
Well, this is the fifth one I've done, and you are the first ones to pick cats and dogs.
Yeah.
That
Really?
surprised me. I thought that would, I mean, because I would probably say dog.
Yeah.
Or maybe cheetah or something really fast. But
What would you pick?
I don't know. I think maybe I would pick something different, like a dolphin or something, just to, because I don't know. I want to see how it is like swimming in the water or something.
dolphins are really smart too, so that would be good. I'll tell you what the other people picked. I had one person, no, actually three people picked horse.
Huh.
And all three of them had horses when they were kids.
Oh.
And two of them have like a little horse ranch that their business, the business is they have 12 horses and they let like disabled kids and autistic kids and people who have PTSD can come down and spend the day with the horses and stuff like
Wow.
a thing. And they don't charge anybody. It's just donations and stuff that they work off of. And so those three picked horses. One person picked a gorilla because originally that was going to be her major in college was anthropology or something.
Huh.
And so she picked a gorilla. I'm trying to remember what the other one picked. Can't think of it off. Oh, the other one picked a bird, like eagle or something. Like they wanted to fly. And so that's a pretty good question. This I might skip the next one. I mean, the next one was going to be if you could witness a historical event.
What'd you say?
A historical event. If you could witness something, do you have something you would pick? I thought that might be a harder question because you're 17. So
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of historical events that I find interesting are like really tragic, so I don't know if I want to
Yeah.
like relive it.
maybe you could prevent it though. You might be able to say no, don't go there or something like that. Okay, next one is what's the most interesting place you visited or that you would like to visit?
Well, the most interesting place I've visited is Estonia because it's the first time I've been out of the country, so it's like a big culture shock. But I'd really like to visit like other countries in Europe, like Paris,
Italy, Greece.
Yeah.
or like the Bahamas or something.
I definitely agree. Saying Estonia is the most interesting place because I've been to Mexico before, but it was like a vacation, so we kind of stayed on like a resort, and then when we went to Estonia, we stayed in a hostel. We were
Oh,
in like the
really?
community, yeah. So it was
Oh.
nice seeing like how they live their daily life and watching kids walk to school, and I think it was just more interesting.
How was the hostel? Did all of
Kind
you?
of run down.
I've never stayed in one, but I've had sometimes students that went to London with me would stay, like they'd go somewhere else on a weekend or something.
Well, when I first heard hostel, I thought it was a nice hotel, and boy, was that shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it is that, but
No.
But I do want to travel more in Europe or maybe Australia or someplace, but I'd like to go to Italy and Spain and in Ireland and some of those places because every place I've been, people were pretty friendly. If you just talk to me, and I had some cool things happen to students. That I had a student go with me to London one year, and her grandmother was from York, England. And so her and her boyfriend went to York for the day and they met a lady that knew her grandmother because they were at the church where she got married and stuff.
That's crazy.
So that was pretty cool. And then they had a guy that his family came from Czechoslovakia. And so he was just like first or second generation American. So one weekend when we were in London, he flew to Prague and he had a map that his grandmother had given him. and he didn't speak Czech, but he showed the map to a cab driver. And the place that his family was from was like 100 miles away. And the cab driver took him there to see his family, stayed with him all weekend and brought him back for $100.
Oh my gosh, that's
And,
crazy.
so he got to meet his family. They owned a butcher shop or something. So he worked in the
Huh.
butcher shop for a while. And then I had one girl we were there for 17 days. She was from Alliance. And the first night we were there, she met a guy that was a police officer in a pub. And they went out every night the whole 17 days we were there. And now they're married and she lives in London.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So yeah, you meet lots of people. Okay, next one is if you had to eat one food every day for the rest of your life, what would
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
be hard to make weight?
That's where we struggle with.
All of you
We're
would
big
pick
ice cream
ice-
people.
Yeah. All right, last one. This is a strange one, but if you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be?
A rumor?
Do you guys ever have that happen in school? Do like rumors go around at school?
Not really about
Gossip.
me.
I mean,
How
I'm
about
trying
you?
to make it like positive.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
something good. Like
I was gonna say not about you. Are they afraid of you because you guys are wrestlers?
Yeah.
I think we kind of just like lay low at school. I don't think we're like the center of the attention.
like I'll go to classes and a lot of people in my class don't even know I wrestle. I don't know.
Oh,
But
really?
you guys really talk about it in class?
Everyone knows we wrestle.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah,
guys go to
high
well when
school.
you went to Scott.
Oh no.
No.
I mean, some
How
people
big
don't.
is your school?
UTAN? We have
It's
like
C2.
a class of 30 in our whole grade.
Yeah.
And I'll have 30 kids in one single class.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
You went to Scott before that?
Yeah.
Isn't Scott like the athletic school that brings on, because they're really good in volleyball, you know?
Yeah.
So they went to UTAN for their freshman and sophomore year and then started at Scott for their junior year and then transferred back to UTAN.
My only connection to you before Mileena introduced me to you guys is that I had Emma Lloyd in my class at Concordia. Didn't she baby
Yeah.
you guys
She went
when
to
you were
UTN.
little?
She was a thrower.
yeah,
Shot
yeah.
or discus maybe.
She threw shot and threw like hammer and discus, I think.
Yeah, I think she got injured though or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last time I talked to her, she was working for the Supernovas volleyball team in Omaha.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty cool. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
Entertaining. So this probably won't go up until next weekend, but if you guys want to look at it, I can slip you the code if you want to see it ahead of time. So
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you
It'll
so
go-
much for having
Yeah,
us. It
thanks.
was super fun.
how do I shut this off? There we go.
I don't know.